Sterile millionaire shocked to receive triplets from his maid. Richard Harrison nearly dropped his coffee cup when he opened the door of his mansion in the upscale neighborhood of Beverly Hills, Los Angeles. Standing before him was Amy Peterson, his former housekeeper, holding 3 babies in her arms, all no more than 3 months old. "Mr. Richard, these are your children," said Amy, her voice steady, but her eyes betraying nervousness. The 42-year-old businessman felt the world spin. He had fired Amy 7 months ago when he discovered she was pregnant, citing budget cuts. But this situation was impossible, completely impossible. "Amy, this is insane. You know very well I can't have children," Richard replied, gripping the carved mahogany door tightly. "I know what you told me when you fired me. But look at them, Mr. Richard. Look closely at their faces." Richard studied the 3 babies, 2 boys and a girl, all with dark hair and almond-shaped eyes. There was something familiar in their features, but he immediately dismissed the possibility. 6 months earlier, after years of trying to conceive, with his wife Vanessa, Richard had received a devastating diagnosis: complete azoospermia, 0 chance of fathering children naturally. The doctor had been clear: no sperm production. Vanessa had cried for weeks, and their 15-year marriage had never been the same. "Amy, you need to leave. My wife can't see this," Richard said, glancing nervously at the marble staircase leading to the 2nd floor. "Mr. Richard, I have nowhere to go. No one wants to hire a woman with 3 babies. You're their father." "I'm sure of it," Amy insisted, adjusting the infants in her arms. "That's impossible, and you know it." "How much do you want?" Richard asked, pulling his wallet from his suit jacket. "I don't want money. I want you to take responsibility." Richard felt a mix of anger and desperation. Vanessa was upstairs, still recovering from the depression caused by the news of his sterility. Seeing this situation could destroy her completely. "Listen carefully, Amy. I'll give you $5,000 right now, and you disappear from my life. Never come back here. It's not about money, Mr. Richard. It's about doing what's right." "Richard, who's there?" Vanessa's voice echoed from the top of the stairs. The businessman quickly closed the door partway, leaving only a crack. "Just a salesman, my love. I'm sending him away." "Mr. Richard," Amy whispered urgently, "I'll come back tomorrow, and I'll keep coming back until you listen to me." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Richard shut the door quickly and leaned against it, breathing heavily. His mind was in turmoil. The situation was absurd, but there was something in Amy's determined gaze that unsettled him deeply. She didn't seem to be lying, but how could she be telling the truth? He climbed the stairs, trying to maintain his composure. Vanessa sat on the bed, flipping through a home decor magazine, her blonde hair in a messy bun and her face still, marked by the sorrow of recent months. "Who was it again?" she asked without looking up. "Someone trying to sell a vacuum cleaner," Richard lied, loosening his tie. "How strange. They usually don't get past the gate." Richard muttered something unintelligible and headed to the bathroom. He stared at himself in the mirror and saw a troubled man, his dark hair slightly disheveled, tension etched on his face. That night, Richard barely slept. He tossed and turned in the king-sized bed, watching Vanessa sleep beside him. She had taken the anxiety medication prescribed by the doctor, a routine that had become common since the diagnosis. Richard got up quietly and went to the office. He turned on the computer and began researching fatherhood and male sterility. He read article after article, but they all confirmed what he already knew. Complete azoospermia meant total inability to father children naturally. But then, a doubt began forming in his mind. What if the diagnosis was wrong? What if there had been a mistake in the tests? He had only taken one test 6 months ago. Maybe he should take another. The next morning, Richard woke to the sound of the doorbell. It was 7 in the morning. He rushed downstairs, afraid it might be Amy again and that Vanessa would see her. It was her. This time accompanied by an older woman, around 60, who was carrying one of the babies. "Good morning, Mr. Richard. This is my Aunt Dorothy. She helps me take care of the little ones. Amy, you can't keep showing up here like this. Mr. Richard, Dorothy said firmly, I raised this girl since she was little. She has never lied to me in her whole life. If she says you're the father, it's because it's true. That's impossible. I had tests done. Tests can be wrong, Dorothy retorted, but children don't lie about who their father is. Richard looked at the babies again. There was something in their features that truly unsettled him, a subtle but undeniable resemblance. What do you want from me? He asked, exhausted. For you to take a paternity test, Amy said. If it's negative, I'll never bother you again. But if it's positive, what? Then we talk about these children's future. Richard felt cornered. Taking the test would mean admitting the possibility, but not taking it would leave that doubt eating away at him. Fine. I'll take the test, but when it comes back negative, you disappear forever. And if it's positive, Amy insisted, it won't be. That same day, Richard scheduled an appointment with Dr. Andrew Miller, a renowned geneticist in Los Angeles. He vaguely explained the situation, only saying he needed an urgent paternity test. Mr. Harrison, you understand this test will compare the baby's DNA to yours, correct? Yes, doctor. And you're prepared for any result? Richard hesitated for a moment. I am. The test was scheduled for 2 days later. Richard spent those 48 hours in a state of anxiety he had never experienced before. Vanessa noticed his irritability, but chalked it up to work stress. On the morning of the test, Amy arrived punctually with the 3 babies and Dorothy. The procedure was simple: saliva samples from Richard and the babies. Dr. Miller explained, the results would be ready in a week. A whole week? Richard asked. That's the time needed for a complete DNA analysis, Mr. Harrison. During that week, Richard couldn't focus on work. His medical equipment import-export company, which he had built over 20 years, seemed to be running on autopilot while his mind was entirely consumed by the situation. Vanessa noticed his distraction and started asking questions. Richard, you've been acting strange. Did something happen at work? No, honey. It's just a complicated deal I'm closing. What kind of deal? Equipment imports from Germany, very bureaucratic. Vanessa accepted the explanation, but Richard could tell she wasn't entirely convinced. On the 6th day of waiting, Richard received an unexpected call. It was Amy. Mr. Richard, I need to talk to you urgently. The test results aren't back yet. It's not about that. It's something else. Can you meet me at the square near the downtown church? Amy, I can't be seen with you all over town. Please, Mr. Richard, it's very important. Reluctantly, Richard agreed to meet her. The park was a neutral spot, far from his neighborhood and workplace. When he arrived, he found Amy sitting on a bench, holding only one of the babies. She seemed more nervous than usual. Where are the other 2? Richard asked. With my aunt. Mr. Richard, I need to tell you something that might change everything. Richard felt his heart race. What? When I worked in your house, I overheard a conversation between you and Mrs. Vanessa about the tests. What conversation? You said the doctor told you it was impossible to have children, but you also said you didn't understand how that could be because before the surgery, you did have sperm. Richard froze. He had undergone surgery for varicocele repair 3 years earlier, a procedure meant to improve fertility. After the surgery, his sperm count had improved significantly. But in the latest tests... What else did you hear? Mrs. Vanessa suggested, you should see another doctor, get more tests done. But you said you didn't want any more false hope. Richard vaguely remembered that conversation. Vanessa had questioned the diagnosis several times, but he had been so devastated that he refused to consider other opinions. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you should get tested again, maybe with another doctor. Amy, this doesn't change the fact that... Yes, it does, Mr. Richard. If you find out the first test was wrong, you'll understand how these babies are possible. Richard looked at the baby in Amy's arms. It was one of the girls, and she had opened, her eyes revealing a shade of brown very similar to his own. When did you get pregnant? About a year ago, Mr. Richard. A year. Richard did the math. A year ago, he hadn't yet taken the sterility tests. In fact, it was around that time Vanessa had insisted he get tested because they'd been trying for so long. Mr. Richard, I never lied to you in all the years I worked in your home. I'm not about to start now. But you understand this is complicated. I'm married. I know it's complicated, but that doesn't change the fact that these babies exist and need a father. Richard felt torn between logic and emotion. Logically, it was impossible, but emotionally, he was starting to feel a strange connection to those babies. What exactly do you expect from me, Amy? First, that you accept you could be the father. Second, that we find a way to take care of these children. And my wife? That's something you'll have to figure out. Richard went home with his mind even more troubled. Vanessa was in the kitchen preparing dinner, an activity she had recently resumed as part of her therapy. "How was your day?" she asked without turning around. "Complicated. Do you want to talk about it?" Richard almost told her everything right then. Almost. But he imagined the impact that revelation would have on Vanessa, who was still emotionally recovering. "It's work, honey. Nothing serious." That night, Richard made a decision. The next day, he would see another doctor to repeat the fertility tests. He needed absolute certainty before making any decisions about the babies. Dr. Michael Stevens was one of the most respected urologists in Los Angeles. Richard booked an urgent appointment, claiming he needed a second opinion on his case. "Mr. Harrison, I'll order a new set of tests, a full semen analysis, hormone tests, and an ultrasound. Sometimes results can vary depending on several factors." "How long will it take?" 3 business days. Richard left the office with a mix of hope and dread. Hope of discovering he could have children. Terror of confirming that Amy was right. 2 days later, on the eve of the fertility test results, Dr. Miller called with the paternity test results. "Mr. Harrison, I need you to come to my office in person to receive the results." "Can't you tell me over the phone?" "I'd prefer in person. Can you come today?" Richard cancelled all his meetings and went straight to the office. Dr. Miller greeted him with a serious expression. "Mr. Harrison, the results are surprising. Positive or negative?" The test confirmed paternity with 99.9% certainty. "You are indeed the biological father of all 3 babies." Richard felt as if the ground had vanished beneath his feet. He gripped the chair to keep from falling. "But how is this possible?" "Mr. Harrison, when you told me you were sterile, I assumed there was some issue with sampling or timing. Absolute sterility is very rare. But the tests, I suggest you take new tests. There may have been an error in the previous diagnosis." Richard left the office in shock. He drove aimlessly through the streets of Los Angeles trying to process the information. He was a father of triplets, and he had rejected that possibility for weeks. His phone rang. It was Amy. "Mr. Richard, did the results come in?" "Yes." "And?" "You were right." There was silence on the other end. "Can you come here? I'm at my aunt's house in South Central. I need some time to process this." "Mr. Richard, please. The babies need to meet their father." Richard hung up and pulled into a gas station. His hands shook as he dialed Dr. Michael Stevens' number. "Doctor, are my test results ready? I was just about to call you. Can you come in today?" At Dr. Stevens' office, Richard received the final confirmation of his suspicions. "Mr. Harrison, your tests are completely normal. Sperm count is adequate, motility is normal. You have no fertility issues." But the other doctor said, "May I see the previous tests?" Richard showed the results from 6 months prior. Dr. Stevens examined them carefully. "Here's the issue. See this date? The test was done right, after you took medication for an infection. Some antibiotics can temporarily affect sperm production. It's possible there was a momentary reduction that was misinterpreted as a zoospermia. So I was never sterile. From what I see here, no. The diagnosis was premature. A follow-up should have been done 3 months after the medication." Richard felt a mix of relief and fury. Relief at discovering he could have children. Fury for spending months believing he was sterile and damaging his marriage over an incorrect diagnosis. But now he had an even bigger problem: how to tell Vanessa that not only could he have children, but he already had 3 with another woman. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. That night, Richard came home determined to tell Vanessa everything. She was in the living room watching TV, looking more relaxed than she had in months. "Vanessa, I need to talk to you about something very important." "Of course, love. What is it?" "First, I want you to know I love you more than anything in this world." Vanessa turned off the TV and faced him fully, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "Richard, you're scaring me." "Vanessa, I found out I'm not sterile." "What do you mean?" "I took new tests. The first diagnosis was wrong. I can have children." Vanessa's face lit up for the first time in months. "But that's wonderful. That means we can still..." "Vanessa, there's one more thing." "What?" Richard took a deep breath. It was the hardest moment of his life. "I already have children." "What?" Vanessa's voice came out as a whisper. "Before finding out the first test was wrong, our former housekeeper, Amy, showed up here with 3 babies. Triplets. She said they were my children, and I didn't believe her. I took a paternity test. They're my kids, Vanessa." Vanessa stayed silent for several seconds. Then she slowly rose from the armchair. "Did you cheat on our marriage?" "Vanessa, I swear I don't remember anything like that. I never consciously betrayed you." "Consciously? What does that mean?" "I don't know how it happened. I truly don't remember." "Are you telling me you had 3 children with our housekeeper and don't remember how?" "I know it sounds absurd." "Sounds absurd? Richard, this is absurd." Vanessa began pacing back and forth across the room, her hands in her hair. 15 years, Richard. 15 years trying to have children, and you had 3 with another woman. Vanessa, please listen to me. And when did this happen? When did you sleep with her? "I don't know. I really don't remember." "You don't remember, or you don't want to?" Richard realized he wouldn't be able to convince Vanessa at that moment. She was in shock, just as he had been. "Vanessa, I know this is impossible to process right now, but these babies exist and they're biologically my children. We need to decide what to do." We don't need to decide anything. You need to decide whether you want your family or your bastard children." "Vanessa." "No, don't you dare Vanessa me. You've destroyed me, Richard. First, you made me believe you were sterile and that we'd never have children. Now I find out you had kids with another woman." Vanessa ran up the stairs. Richard heard the bedroom door slam shut. He stood in the living room staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how his life had gotten so complicated in such a short time. A week ago, he was a sterile businessman married for 15 years. Now, he was the father of triplets, and his marriage was hanging by a thread. His phone rang. It was Amy again. "Mr. Richard, I'm sorry to bother you. It's just that the babies are crying a lot, and Amy, I can't talk right now. Mr. Richard, I know this is hard, but the babies need you." I said I can't talk now. Richard hung up and went upstairs to the bedroom. Vanessa was packing a suitcase. "What are you doing?" "I'm going to my sister's place in San Diego. I need time to think." "Vanessa, please don't do this. Let's talk." "Talk?" "Richard, you had 3 children with another woman. There's nothing to talk about." "But I don't remember ever being involved with her." "Then how do you explain the babies?" "I don't know. Maybe something happened that I don't remember." Vanessa stopped packing and looked at him with an expression mixing pain and anger. "Richard, are you suggesting you slept with our housekeeper and don't remember?" "I don't know what I'm suggesting. All I know is the tests confirmed I'm the father." "And that's all that matters to you, the tests?" "No, Vanessa. You're what matters most to me. If I mattered most, you would never have done this." "Vanessa, I swear on everything, holy, that I don't remember doing anything with Amy." Vanessa zipped up the suitcase and walked toward the door. "I'll be staying at Monica's place. When you decide what's most important to you, call me." "Vanessa, don't leave like Let's work this out together. Together. Richard, you created this mess alone. Fix it alone too. Vanessa left the room, went downstairs and walked out of the house. Richard heard her car start and drive away. For the first time in 15 years, Richard was alone at home. He sat on the bed and tried to recall any moment when he might have been involved with Amy. Nothing. Absolutely nothing came to mind. Amy had worked for them for 3 years. She was a discreet, efficient person who always maintained professional distance. He rarely spoke to her beyond work instructions. How was it possible they had been involved without him remembering? The only explanation he could think of was so disturbing that he preferred not to dwell on it. He had read about cases where people took medication and later couldn't remember things they'd done. But he didn't recall taking anything unusual during that time. His phone rang again. Amy. Mr. Richard, please don't hang up. It's about the children. What's wrong with them? One of them, Olivia, has a fever. My aunt thinks we should take her to the doctor, but we don't have money for a private hospital. Richard felt a pang of responsibility. If he really was the father, he couldn't let them go without medical care. Where are you? At my aunt's house in South Central. Send me the address. I'll pick you up and take you to the hospital. Are you sure? Send the address. An hour later, Richard was driving through the outskirts of Los Angeles, an area he rarely visited. The streets were narrower, the houses simpler, a reality completely different from his own. He found Dorothy's house, a small but well-kept 2-story home with plants out front and laundry hanging in the yard. Amy came out immediately with the 3 babies. How are they going to ride in the car? Richard asked, noticing there were no car seats. We always take the bus, Amy replied. Richard realized the social divide between them. To him, transporting babies without proper safety equipment was unthinkable. To Amy, it was simply reality. Let's buy car seats first, he said. Mr. Richard, that's so expensive. Don't worry about it. On the way to the baby store, Richard watched Amy in the rearview mirror. She sat in the back, holding 2 babies while Dorothy held the 3rd. Little Olivia did seem feverish. At the store, the clerk showed them the appropriate car seats for newborns. The price for 3 was nearly 2 months' worth of minimum wage. Richard paid without hesitation, but noticed Amy's stunned expression. Mr. Richard, that's so much money. Amy, if they're my children, they need to be safe. If they're... Sorry, I'm still getting used to the idea. At the hospital, Richard insisted on taking Olivia to a private pediatrician. The doctor examined the baby and explained it was just a common cold but prescribed medication and care instructions. Is this your first child? The doctor asked. Richard and Amy exchanged glances. The situation was too complicated to explain. Yes, Amy said quickly. They're triplets, Richard added at the same time. The doctor looked confused. They are triplets, yes, Amy clarified. This is their father. Richard felt strange being called a father. It was technically true, but emotionally he hadn't fully processed it yet. After the appointment, Richard drove Amy and the children back home. During the ride, Amy broke the silence. Mr. Richard, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you really not remember anything that happened between us? Nothing. And it's really confusing me. Me too. What do you mean? You were always so respectful toward me. You never made any advances or inappropriate remarks. That's why I was so surprised when it happened. When what happened exactly? Amy was silent for a few seconds. You really don't remember? Amy, please, I need to understand. It was on a Friday night, about a year ago. Vanessa had traveled to Washington, D.C. to visit her sister, who was sick. You came home very late and you seemed off. Off how? Kind of dazed. Your speech was slurred. I asked if you were okay, and you said yes, that you were just very tired. Richard tried to recall that specific night. Vanessa had indeed traveled to see Monica, who had been having health issues, but he couldn't remember coming home dazed or any interaction with Amy. Go on. You asked me to make tea. While I was preparing it, you kept talking about how sad you were that you couldn't have children, how guilty you felt for not giving Vanessa a child. Richard remembered going through a very rough patch back then, when the first test suggested fertility issues. And then, you started crying. I'd never seen you cry before. I felt sorry for you and I tried to comfort you. How? I just put my hand on your shoulder, told you things would be okay, but you held me and you kissed me. Richard felt like he'd been punched in the gut. Even without remembering, the situation Amy described sounded plausible. He had been in a dark place alone, maybe had too much to drink. I tried to pull away, Amy continued. But you said you needed affection, that you felt like less of a man because you couldn't give your wife children. Amy, this is decomplicated. I know it is, but one thing led to another and it happened. Just once? No, it happened a few more times when Vanessa wasn't home. Always at night, always when you came home acting strange from work. Richard was stunned. How could he not remember any of this? How many times? It's about 4 or 5 times over 2 months. And why did it stop? Because I got pregnant and told you. You panicked, said it had been a terrible mistake, that you loved your wife and couldn't keep going. You fired me that same week. Richard parked the car in front of Dorothy's house. His mind was reeling. Amy, I need to ask you something. What? During those times you said something happened between us, did I seem like myself? What do you mean? Did I seem lucid, aware of what I was doing? Amy thought for a moment. Not really. You always seemed kind of like you weren't fully yourself. You talked differently, acted differently. That's why I was confused. Different how? More affectionate, more needy. Nothing like how you usually were day to day. Richard began to suspect something deeply unsettling. Back then, he'd been on medication for anxiety and depression because of the fertility issues. He'd read about side effects that included behavioral changes and memory lapses. Amy, I need to check something. Can you give me a few days? Of course, Mr. Richard, but what's going to happen with the children? I'll help, no matter what. They're my responsibility now. And Vanessa. That I still need to figure out. Richard returned home late that night. The empty house echoed his footsteps. He went straight to the bathroom and rummaged through the medicine cabinet. He found the box of medication he'd been taking for a year and a half, Xanax. He looked up the side effects online. Among them, mental confusion, disinhibition, altered behavior, and anterograde amnesia, the inability to form new memories while under the drug's influence. Richard felt a mix of relief and horror. Relief at understanding how this could have happened without him remembering. Horror at realizing he'd betrayed Vanessa under the influence of medication, but it was still a betrayal. The phone rang. It was Vanessa. Richard? Vanessa! I'm glad you called. I just want to know one thing. You've made your choice. Vanessa, I found out something important about what happened. I don't care, I just want to know. Are you going to take responsibility for those children or not? Vanessa, they're my kids. I have to take responsibility. So you've chosen. Vanessa, wait. It's not a choice between you and them. It's possible. Nothing is possible, Richard. It's either your family of 15 years or the bastards you had with the maid. Vanessa, please don't call them that. They're not to blame for anything. And neither am I, but I'm the one suffering. Vanessa, let me come over. Let's talk in person. No, I don't want to see you right now. Then, when? When you've made your decision. My decision about what? Whether you want to stay married to me or be a father to the maid's children. Vanessa, it doesn't have to be one or the other. For me, it does. I can't look at you without remembering you betrayed me and had children with another woman. Vanessa. The call ended. Richard stayed up all night trying to find a solution. On one side, there was Vanessa, his wife of 15 years, the woman he loved. On the other side, there were 3 babies who were his biological children and needed him. The next morning, he decided to seek professional help. He booked an appointment with a psychologist specializing in relationships and family. Dr. Sarah Williams saw him in her office in the Upper East Side. Richard told her the whole story, from the incorrect infertility diagnosis to the discovery of the triplets. Mr. Harrison, This is an extremely complex and delicate situation. There are no easy solutions. Doctor, is there any way to save my marriage and still take responsibility for my children? That depends entirely on your wife's willingness to accept the situation. And from what you've told me, she's deeply hurt right now. And if I don't take responsibility for the children, could you live with that, knowing you have 3 children who need support and protection? Richard knew the answer was no. What if I divorce Vanessa? That's an option, but you'd lose the woman you love, and there's no guarantee you'd build a new life with Amy. I don't want to build a life with Amy. I don't even remember being involved with her. But the babies exist, Mr. Harrison, and they'll need care for the next 20 years. What do you suggest? First, that you talk to your wife again. Explain about the medication, how this could have happened. Second, that you consider couples therapy. Third, that you gradually take on your responsibilities as a father, regardless of what happens to your marriage. Richard left the office with a plan. First, he'd speak to the doctor who prescribed the Xanax to get a report on the possible side effects. Second, he'd call Vanessa and ask for a chance to explain everything. Third, he'd visit the babies and start fulfilling his paternal duties. Dr. William Bennett, the psychiatrist who prescribed the medication, saw Richard in his office. Mr. Harrison, yes, it's possible the Xanax caused the effects you described, especially if combined with alcohol. And was I drinking back then? You mentioned you were drinking more than usual due to stress. Doctor, is it possible I did things under the influence of the medication and don't remember? Unfortunately, yes. Anterograde amnesia is a known side effect. You maintain motor functions and can perform complex activities, but don't form memories of the period. Can you provide a report on this? I can, but I must warn you, it doesn't absolve responsibility for actions taken. I understand, I just need my wife to understand how this could happen. With the medical report in hand, Richard called Vanessa. Vanessa, I found out how everything happened. Can I come over and explain? Richard, I already told you. I don't want to see you. Vanessa, it was because of the medication I was taking. I have a medical report that proves it. What? The Xanax the psychiatrist prescribed me can cause amnesia and behavioral changes. I really don't remember anything because I was under the influence of the medication. Vanessa fell silent for a few seconds. That doesn't change the fact that you cheated on me and had children with another woman. But it explains how it was possible without me remembering. Richard, even if you were under the influence of medication, you chose to take it. You chose to drink with it. You chose to be alone with her. Vanessa, I didn't know about the side effects. No one warned me. But does that change? Anything? Do the babies stop existing? No, but then it changes nothing, Richard. Richard realized Vanessa was unyielding at that moment. He decided to focus on what he could control, his responsibilities as a father. That afternoon, he visited Amy and the babies again. This time he managed to look at them with different eyes. They were his children, tiny human beings who depended on him to survive and grow. Amy, we need to talk about the children's future. What have you decided? I'm going to take responsibility as their father, but that doesn't mean we'll have a romantic relationship. I never expected that, Mr. Richard. I just want you to help take care of them. I'll help. I'll pay monthly child support. I'll be involved in raising them. I'll provide health care and education. And where will we live? It's too cramped here at my aunt's house. Richard hadn't thought of that. 3 babies needed proper space. I'll rent a house for you. A place with enough room for everyone. Are you sure? Amy, they're my children. I'll do whatever's necessary to give them a decent life. And Mrs. Vanessa. Vanessa, that will take time to resolve. That night, Richard began searching for houses to rent in safe neighborhoods with good infrastructure. He found a 3-bedroom house in Glendale, close to a school and a health clinic, at a price that fit his budget. In the following days, Richard organized Amy and the babies' move. He bought furniture, cribs, baby gear, creating a proper family setup. Vanessa found out about the move through a mutual friend who saw Richard at a baby furniture store. Richard, you set up a home for them. Vanessa, they needed a proper place to live. And you didn't think to consult me before spending our money to set up a house for your mistress and your children. Vanessa, Amy is not my mistress, and the money is mine from my company. It's ours, Richard. 15 years of marriage, we have partial shared assets. Vanessa, please, let's meet and talk about this calmly. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Vanessa, I didn't choose anything. I'm trying to do what's right. What's right is choosing between your family and your bastards. Vanessa, please stop calling them that. That's what they are, Richard. Illegitimate children of an adulterer. Richard hung up, heartbroken. Vanessa was blinded by pain and anger, unable to see the situation rationally. He decided to focus on what he could control. In the following days, he visited the babies daily. He learned to change diapers, give bottles, soothe them. Gradually, he began to feel an emotional connection with them. One of the boys, whom Amy had named Ethan, seemed especially attached to him. Whenever Richard arrived, Ethan would stop crying and smile. It was a small smile, but meaningful. "He likes you," Amy said one afternoon. "How can you tell? Babies sense when someone truly cares for them." Richard realized Amy was right. Despite all the confusion and difficulty of the situation, he was beginning to love those babies. A week later, Vanessa called again. "Richard, I want you to come get your things." "Vanessa, are you kicking me out of the house? You kicked yourself out when you decided to have a second family." "Vanessa, for God's sake, let's try couples therapy. Let's try to work this out." "There's nothing to work out. You made your choice when you set up that home for them. I just wanted to give the children decent living conditions, and their mother too. Vanessa, Amy and I don't have any kind of romantic relationship. Not yet, but you already live together, already raise kids together." "We don't live together. I just visit the children." "Richard, I've already spoken to a lawyer. I'm filing for separation." Richard felt as if the world had collapsed, 15 years of marriage coming to an end because of something he didn't even remember doing. "Vanessa, please, I love you. Don't do this. If you loved me, you would have never betrayed me. It was because of the medication." "Did the medication force you to sleep with her? Did the medication force you not to use protection? Did the medication force you to hide this from me?" "I didn't hide anything. I found out at the same time you did." "Richard, enough. I'm tired of this conversation. You have 1 week to get your things." Vanessa hung up. Richard stared at the phone, feeling completely lost. That night he went to visit the babies, as had become his routine. Amy noticed he was upset. "Did something happen, Mr. Harrison?" "Vanessa is filing for separation." "I'm so sorry." "Amy, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course. Do you have feelings for me?" Amy turned red and looked away. "Why do you ask that?" "Because Vanessa thinks you and I will end up together." "Mr. Harrison, I won't lie. I care about you deeply. I always have. But I know you love your wife and that what happened between us was different." "Different how?" "It wasn't out of love. It was out of need, out of loneliness. You were suffering so much and needed someone. And you? Why did you let it happen?" "Because I felt sorry for you. And because I always thought you were a good man. I knew you were going through a tough time." "Amy, you understand I can't offer you a relationship, right? I never expected that, Mr. Harrison. I just want you to be a good father to the babies. And if Vanessa really does file for separation, that doesn't change anything. You need to move on with your life, and I need to move on with mine." "Move on how?" "By taking care of the babies, working, trying to build a stable life for them." "Do you want to go back to work?" "When they're a little older, yes, but for now they need full-time care." "Amy, what if I paid so you wouldn't have to work outside while they're little?" "You'd do that. They're my children. I want them to have the best care possible." "Mr. Harrison, you're so kind. Very different from what I imagined. Rich men were like. What did you imagine? Cold, selfish. But you're warm, caring." Richard realized he was beginning to know Amy in a way he never had when she worked for him. She was an intelligent, kind woman with strong principles. "Amy, can I ask you one more question?" "Of course. Do you regret what happened between us?" Amy thought for a long moment. "No. Even with all the chaos it caused, I don't regret it. Because it gave us them, she said, looking at the sleeping babies. And me? Do you think I regret it? I think you regret hurting Mrs. Vanessa, but I don't think you regret them. Amy was right. With each passing day, Richard felt more connected to the triplets. They were a part of him, literally. A week later, Richard went to pick up his things from the house where he had lived for 15 years. Vanessa had packed everything into boxes and left them in the garage. She didn't want to see him in person. She left a letter. Richard, after much thought, I've come to the conclusion that our story has come to an end. I can't get past the fact that you had children with another woman, no matter the circumstances. I know you claim not to remember, but that doesn't change the reality. I wish you happiness with your new family, but I can't be a part of it. Vanessa. Richard read the letter over and over, feeling his heart break. 15 years of a relationship, ending in such a painful way. He took his things and went to a hotel. He didn't know where he would live, didn't know what his life would look like from then on. His phone rang. It was Amy. Mr. Richard, I'm sorry to bother you. Olivia has colic and won't stop crying. Can you come? Of course. I'm on my way. At the house in Glendale, Richard found Amy desperate, trying to calm Olivia, who was crying inconsolably. Have you tried massaging her tummy? I've tried everything. Richard picked Olivia up and began making gentle circular motions on her belly as he walked around the house. Gradually, the baby calmed down. How did you know what to do? I read about infant colic online, Beta. You've been studying about babies? Yes. I want to be a good father to them. Amy looked at Richard with admiration and gratitude. Mr. Richard, can you stay a little longer? She's calmer with you. Richard stayed until Olivia fell completely asleep. When he placed her in the crib, he noticed Amy watching him with a different look. What is it? Nothing, it's just, you're so affectionate with them. They're my children. I know, but not all fathers are that dedicated. Jamie, can I stay on the couch tonight? My ex-wife, when she asked me to get my things, I'm at a hotel and thought, of course you can, Mr. Richard. This house is yours too, after all, you're paying the rent. That night, Richard slept on the living room sofa, but woke up several times to help Amy with the babies. It was exhausting, but rewarding. The next morning, as they had coffee together, Amy made an observation. Mr. Richard, have you thought about living here permanently? Yes, what do you mean? You're paying for a hotel, you're paying for this house, and the babies need their father close by. Amy, that would be complicated. Why? It doesn't have to be romantic. Just two adults taking care of 3 babies. Richard considered the proposal. It made financial and practical sense, but emotionally it was complicated. What if people think we're together? People will think what they want, no matter where you live. And you? How would you feel living in the same house as me? Fine. You're a good person, Mr. Richard, and the babies are calmer when you're around. Let me think about it. In the following days, Richard continued staying at the hotel, but spent most of his time at the house in Glendale. Gradually, he realized he felt more at home there than at the hotel. The babies were growing and developing distinct personalities. Ethan was the calmest, Olivia the smartest, and Noah the fussiest. Richard began recognizing their specific needs. One afternoon, as he fed Noah a bottle, Amy sat beside him on the couch. Mr. Richard, can I say something? Of course. You've changed a lot since you found out you're their father. Changed how? You've become more human, more approachable. When I worked at your house, you were always so distant, so formal. That's how I thought I should be with employees. And now? Now I see you as the mother of my children, as someone very important to me. Amy smiled timidly. Important how? As a partner, in raising them. Just that? Richard looked at Amy. Over the past few months, he had learned to admire her strength, her dedication, her intelligence. She was very different from the image he had of her as a housekeeper. Amy, I can't deny you've become a very special person to me. But I'm still processing everything that happened. I understand I'm not demanding anything from you. And if I moved here officially, I'd be very happy. The babies too. But it would just be as housemates, taking care of the babies together. I know. Are you sure you could handle that? No romantic expectations? Amy hesitated for a moment. Mr. Richard, I won't lie and say I don't have feelings for you, but I understand the situation is complicated. I'd rather have you here as a friend and partner in raising the children than not have you at all. Richard made his decision. The following week, he officially moved into the house in Glendale. They arranged the rooms so each had their privacy, but could share responsibilities with the babies. The new routine worked surprisingly well. Richard woke up early to help with bottles. Amy took care of the babies during the day while he worked, and at night they split bath time and general care. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 2 months after the move, Richard was beginning to feel like part of a real family. The babies responded to him as their father, Amy, had become a reliable companion and the household routine was running smoothly. Then Vanessa showed up. It was a Saturday afternoon. Richard was in the backyard assembling a small slide he'd bought for when the babies got older. Amy was in the kitchen, preparing their baby food. The doorbell rang. Amy answered and returned, with a worried expression. Mr. Richard, it's Mrs. Vanessa. Richard felt his heart race. Vanessa stood at the door, elegantly dressed as always, but with an expression mixing pain and determination. Vanessa, what are you doing here? I came to see your new life with my own eyes. Vanessa, come in. Let's talk. Vanessa entered the house and observed everything. The scattered toys, the cribs in the living room, the baby clothes drying on the rack. So it's true. You're living here as a family. Vanessa, it's not what you're thinking. Then what is it, Richard? You live in the same house as her, raise your children together. What's left to make you a couple? We're not a couple, we're just 2 people taking care of 3 babies. And you're happy like this? The question caught Richard off guard. He paused to think. Was he happy? Yes, in a way he hadn't expected, but it was a different happiness from what he'd had with Vanessa. Vanessa, I'm so sorry for everything that happened. I know I hurt you deeply. You destroyed our life, Richard, and I'd give anything to go back and do things differently. But would you really go back? Even knowing it would mean these babies wouldn't exist. Richard looked at the triplets sleeping peacefully in their cribs. Vanessa's question was impossible to answer. I don't know. I know you don't, and that's why I came here. Why? To give you one last chance. What do you mean? I've been seeing a therapist these past few months. She helped me understand some things. What things? That maybe I was too extreme. That maybe there's a way for us to work this out. Richard felt a flicker of hope. Vanessa, are you saying that? I'm saying maybe we could try couples therapy. Try to find a way to handle this situation. Would you accept the babies? I don't know, but I'm willing to try to understand. Richard looked at Amy, who had stayed quiet in the corner of the room. And Amy? What would happen to her? That's something we'd have to decide together. Vanessa, I can't abandon the babies. I'm not asking you to abandon them. I'm asking you to come back home and try to find a way for you to be their father without living here. How? Visitations, child support being part of their upbringing, but keeping our family as the priority. Richard felt torn. On one side, the possibility of winning back Vanessa, the woman he had loved for 15 years. On the other, the life he was building with Amy and the babies. Vanessa, I need time to think. How much time? A week. Richard, it's either a week or you choose now. Why the pressure? Because if you don't come back now, I'll file for divorce and move on with my life. I can't stay in this limbo forever. Vanessa headed for the door. 1 week, Richard. After that, I won't change my mind. After Vanessa left, Richard stayed silent for several minutes. Amy approached timidly. Mr. Richard, are you going back to her? I don't know, Amy. If you want to go back, I understand. And the babies? You can visit them whenever you want. You can be part of their lives. But it wouldn't be the same. No. But maybe it's best for everyone. Why do you say that? Because you love her, and she loves you. You have 15 years of history. And you, how do you feel about this? Amy began crying silently. I feel like I'll miss you terribly, but I want you to be happy. Amy? Mr. Richard, I always knew this was temporary, that one day you'd have to choose between your old life and your life now. And if I choose to stay here, then I'll be very happy. But only if it's truly your choice, not out of obligation. That night Richard barely slept. He thought about Vanessa, about all the history they shared. He thought about Amy, the strong and caring woman he had come to admire. He thought about the babies whom he already considered his own. The next day, he decided to talk to Dr. Sarah, the psychologist he had seen before. Doctor, I'm facing an impossible choice. Tell me what's happening. Richard explained Vanessa's proposal and his confusion. Mr. Richard, which of the two options would make you feel more complete as a person? I don't know. With Vanessa, I'd be the man I always was. With Amy and the babies, I'm a version of myself I didn't even know existed. And which of those versions do you prefer? The second one. But that would mean letting go of 15 years with Vanessa. And keeping those 15 years would mean letting go of your children. Not completely. I could still visit them. Mr. Richard, visitation isn't fatherhood. Fatherhood is being there every day, in the hard moments, in the small victories. But I love Vanessa. And her? Do you think she could ever love the babies? Richard thought honestly about the question. No. I think she'd always see them as the result of my betrayal. And would that be fair to the children? No. Mr. Richard, sometimes life puts us in situations where there are no perfect choices. Only choices that make more sense with who we've become. Richard left the office even more confused. He decided to spend the next few days carefully observing his feelings in each situation. When he was with the babies, he felt complete, useful, needed. When he thought about Vanessa, he felt nostalgia, love for the past, but also a sense that chapter had ended. When he talked to Amy, he felt understood, accepted, at peace. It wasn't romantic passion like what he had felt for Vanessa, but it was something deep and solid. On the fourth day, Ethan spoke his first word, Dada. Richard was feeding him a bottle when he heard it clearly, his heart filled with a joy he had never experienced before. Amy, come here, he spoke. What did he say? Dada. He called me Dada. Amy smiled with tears in her eyes. He recognizes you as his father. In that moment, Richard knew what his choice was. On the sixth day, he called Vanessa. Vanessa, I've made my decision. And I'm staying here. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Vanessa, are you still there? I am. I'm just trying to accept that 15 years of my life have just gone down the drain. Vanessa, I'm so sorry. Truly. I am too, Richard. I'm sorry I can't be the woman who accepts this situation. None of this is your fault. Or yours. I guess sometimes life takes us down paths we didn't choose. Vanessa, I want you to be happy. You deserve to find someone who makes you happy, and you deserve to be happy with your new family. Will you be okay? I will. It'll hurt for a while, but I'll be okay. Vanessa, I'll never forget what we shared. Neither will I. Take good care of your children, Richard. I will. After hanging up, Richard felt sad about losing Vanessa, but at peace with his decision. He told Amy about his choice. She cried with emotion and relief. Mr. Harrison, are you sure? I am. This is my family now. And what about us? How will we be together? I don't know yet. I just know I want to keep building this family with you. As partners? To start, yes, we'll see what the future brings. In the following months, Richard and Amy settled into a family routine that worked perfectly. They became true partners in raising the triplets, sharing responsibilities, and making decisions together. Richard realized his feelings for Amy were evolving from admiration and gratitude into something deeper. But he didn't want to rush anything. Amy, in turn, respected the emotional space Richard needed after the end of his marriage, but through small gestures, she showed her feelings for him continued to grow. 6 months after his decision to stay, Richard woke one morning to Olivia crying. It was very early and Amy was still asleep. He got up to tend to the baby. Olivia had colic again. Richard picked her up and began the massage he had learned. As he walked around the house with her, he noticed Amy watching from the bedroom door. "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you," he whispered. "I woke up on my own. It's beautiful to see you caring for her like that. She's my daughter, and you're a wonderful father." In that moment, with Olivia calming in his arms and Amy smiling at him in the dim light of dawn, Richard felt whole in a way he never had before. "Amy, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you regret how things happened?" "What do you mean?" "All the pain, all the confusion. If you could go back, would you do things differently?" Amy stepped closer and gently touched Richard's arm. "Richard, if I could go back, the only thing I'd change is telling you from the start that I was pregnant. But I wouldn't change the fact that it happened because it gave me them," she said, looking at the babies, "and eventually brought you into our lives for real. Our life, our family." Richard leaned in and kissed Amy's forehead. It was the first romantic gesture between them since she had told him about the encounters he didn't remember. "Amy, I'm falling in love with you, for real this time, consciously. And I never stopped being in love with you. Do you want to try building something real with us?" "I do, but slowly, the right way." "What would the right way be?" "Getting to know each other better, building a solid foundation, being honest with each other about everything. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll continue being partners in raising them. But I have hope that it will work." "Why?" "Because you're a good man, Richard. And because we've already proven we work well together as a family." In the months that followed, Richard and Amy began to know each other as a couple, not just as co-parents. They went out to dinner occasionally when Dorothy could watch the babies, talked about their dreams and fears, and shared their stories. Richard discovered that Amy had studied education, but never finished her degree due to lack of financial resources. He encouraged her to go back to school. Amy learned that Richard had always dreamed of a big family, but Vanessa never wanted more than one child, even before the fertility issues. A year after deciding to stay on a quiet night with all 3 babies asleep, Richard made a proposal. "Amy, I want to ask you an important question." "What question?" "Will you marry me?" Amy's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. I want to make this official. I want us to be a real family." "Richard, are you sure? Isn't it too soon?" "Amy, I've lived here for over a year. I'm already raising 3 kids with you. I already truly love you. What else do I need to know? What if you regret it? What if one day you remember what happened between us in the past and it changes things?" "Amy, even if I remembered, it wouldn't change anything. What matters is what we're building." "Now, are you sure?" "I am. Will you?" Amy began to cry. "Yes, of course I will." They married 6 months later in a simple courthouse ceremony with the triplets present and Dorothy as their witness. Vanessa had moved to the countryside and started a new life. 2 years after the wedding, when the triplets were walking and talking, Richard was playing with them in the backyard when he noticed something surprising. Ethan was trying to teach Olivia how to throw a ball while Noah watched intently. It was a scene of pure family happiness. "Daddy, come play," Olivia shouted. "Coming, princess." Amy appeared at the door, radiant. "Richard, I need to tell you something." "Well, what is it?" "I'm pregnant." Richard nearly tripped over the ball. "Really? Really? 2 months?" "Amy, that's wonderful." He ran to her and kissed her passionately. "Another baby for our family. Are you happy?" "Over the moon." The triplets ran over. "Why are Mommy and Daddy kissing?" Ethan asked. "Because you're going to have a little brother or sister," Amy explained. "More baby?" Noah asked. "More baby," Richard confirmed, scooping him up. That night, after putting the children to bed, Richard and Amy sat on the living room couch. Richard, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? Truly? Richard looked around the house. Toys scattered, tiny clothes on the drying rack, children's photos on the walls. It was a very different life from what he'd planned, but perfect in its own way. Amy, I've never been happier in my life, even without remembering how it all started. Especially because I don't remember. It means our real story began when I consciously chose to stay here, when I chose to build this family with you. And you never regret losing Vanessa? I miss her sometimes. 15 years don't just disappear, but I don't regret it. She was right. We needed to choose, and I chose you. What if one day you remember what happened back then? Amy, even if I do, it won't change how I feel about you now. What happened back then was messy, painful for everyone. What we have now is clear. It's choice, it's real love. I love you so much, Richard. I love you too. And I love the family we've built together. 9 months later, Sophia was born. A little girl with brown hair and green eyes just like Amy's. The triplets were fascinated by their baby sister and competed over who could help take care of her the most. Life in the Glendale house was busy, but happy. Richard had expanded his business and now mostly worked from home so he could be more involved in raising the children. Amy had finished her teaching degree and started tutoring neighborhood kids, using her experience with her own children. One Sunday afternoon, 5 years after Amy first showed up at the Beverly Hills mansion with the triplets in her arms, Richard was in the backyard watching the 4 children play. Ethan, now 5, was the natural leader of the group. Olivia, the studious one, always organized their games. Noah, the most affectionate, made sure everyone felt included. And Sophia, now 2, followed her older siblings in every adventure. Amy joined him on the porch. What are you thinking about? How unpredictable life is. What do you mean? 5 years ago, I thought I knew exactly how my life would turn out. Married to Vanessa, no kids, focused on work. And now? Now I have 4 children, a wife I truly love, and a life I couldn't even imagine. Do you prefer how it was before or how it is now? Amy, there's no comparison. This life is 1,000 times better, even with all the difficulties. Especially because of the difficulties, they made me grow, made me discover who I really am. And who are you? A father, a husband, a man who found his real family. Just then, Sophia tripped and started crying. The 3 older siblings rushed to help her, each trying to comfort her in their own way. "Daddy, Sophia got hurt," Olivia shouted. Richard ran over and picked Sophia up, checking her scraped knee. "It's nothing serious, princess. We'll clean it and put a bandage on it." As he tended to Sophia's injury, with the other 3 watching worriedly, Richard realized that this was the true meaning of family, being there in the hard moments, taking care of each other, building bonds that go beyond blood. "There, Sophia. All better now," he said, kissing his daughter's forehead. "Thank you, Daddy," Sophia said, running back to play as if nothing had happened. "Daddy's the best in the world," Ethan declared. "He really is." Olivia and Noah agreed. Richard looked at Amy, who was smiling with tears in her eyes. "Why are you crying?" "Because I'm watching you be exactly the father I always dreamed you'd be. And you're exactly the mother and wife I never knew I wanted." That night, after putting all 4 children to bed, Richard and Amy sat on the porch enjoying the rare quiet of the house. "Richard, can I confess something?" "Of course." "That first time when I showed up at your door with the babies, I was terrified." "Why?" "Because I knew you had every reason not to believe me. The story was crazy. But you insisted. Because they needed a father, and I knew you were a good man, even if I didn't remember the moments we'd shared." "How did—" "You know, from the 3 years I worked for you, I saw how you treated Vanessa with kindness, how you respected me, how you cared about people. And now, do you still think I'm a good man? Now I know you're the best man I've ever met." "Why?" "Because you chose responsibility when you could have chosen the easy way out. You chose love when you could have chosen comfort." "Amy, I'm the lucky one. You gave me a family, taught me how to be a father, showed me a kind of love I didn't even know existed." "What kind of love?" Love that grows through hardships, that strengthens with challenges, that's built on creating something together. Is it different from what you felt for Vanessa? Completely different. With Vanessa, it was passion, romance, but it was also comfortable. With you, it's work, it's growth, it's transformation. And which do you prefer? This, 1,000 times this. 2 years later, on a Saturday morning, Richard was helping Ethan with his homework when he received an unexpected call. "Richard, it's Vanessa." His heart skipped. It had been years since they'd spoken. "Vanessa, how are you?" "I'm good, really good actually. I'm calling because I wanted to thank you." "Thank me for what?" "For forcing me to start my life over." "Vanessa, I never wanted to force you into anything." "I know. But when you chose to stay with your family, I had to rebuild my life. And I discovered things about myself I never knew." "What things?" "That I'm stronger than I thought, that I can be happy in ways I never planned." "Did you meet someone?" "I did. A wonderful man with 2 teenage kids. We've been together for 2 years. Vanessa, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. And I'm happy for you too. I heard you got married and had another daughter." "Yes. Sophia is 4 now." "Richard, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you regret anything?" Richard looked around the house. Ethan was focused on his math homework. Olivia was teaching Sophia how to draw. Noah was helping Amy in the kitchen. "No, Vanessa. I don't regret a thing. Not even hurting me?" "I regret hurting you, yes. But I don't regret the choices I made after I found out about the kids. I understand and know that I've forgiven you. I've forgiven myself too. Vanessa, that means a lot to me. Richard, take good care of your family. They're lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one to have them." After hanging up, Richard felt at peace. Vanessa's forgiveness had closed an important chapter in his life. "Who was that, Dad?" asked Ethan. "An old friend, someone very important from before you were born." "Did she want to meet us?" "No, son. She just wanted to know if we're doing well." "And are we?" Richard looked at Ethan, at his sisters, at Amy in the kitchen. "We're more than well, son. We're complete." That night, Richard and Amy were lying in bed talking about the day when Amy made an observation. "Richard, did you realize today marks exactly 7 years since I showed up at your door?" 7 years. Feels like a lifetime. And also, like it was yesterday. "Amy, if you could go back, would you do everything the same?" "I'd do it all the same, and you?" I'd do one thing differently." "What?" "I'd have believed you from the very beginning." "Why?" "Because it would have saved time. It would have spared everyone pain. But maybe we needed to go through all that to get here." "How so?" "If you'd believed me right away, maybe you wouldn't have made the choices you did. Maybe you'd have tried to balance everything. Stayed with Vanessa and visited the kids on weekends." "And that would have been bad?" "Yes, because you'd never have truly discovered yourself as a father. You'd never have realized you could love in a different way." "Do you think I needed to lose Vanessa to find you all?" "I think you needed to make a real choice. And real choices always come at a cost." "And what was the cost of choosing? You. You lost the life you knew. You lost the woman you loved. You lost the idea you had of yourself. And what did I gain? A real family. Kids who see you as a hero. A wife who loves you exactly as you are. And a new idea of myself?" "Exactly. You discovered you're so much stronger, so much more loving, so much more of a family man than you ever imagined." Richard pulled Amy closer. "Amy, I love you. I love you too. Thank you for showing up at my door that day. Thank you for letting me in. Forever. Forever." The next day, a sunny Sunday, the family was gathered in the backyard for a barbecue. Richard was at the grill, Amy prepared salads, and the 4 children played in the kiddie pool they had set up. Dorothy, now 70 years old, had joined them for lunch as she did every Sunday. "Aunt Dorothy," said Olivia, "tell Sophia the story about when Daddy didn't believe we were his kids." "Oh my, that story again?" Dorothy laughed. "Please," the children insisted. "All right, come here, Sophia. Let Auntie tell you how stubborn your daddy was." Richard stopped tending to the meat and came closer to listen. Even after all these years, he still enjoyed hearing Dorothy's version of those early days. "So, Sophia, a long time ago, your mommy showed up at your daddy's house with you three in her arms," Dorothy began, pointing to the triplets. "And your daddy said, 'That's impossible. These babies can't be mine.'" "Why, Aunt Dorothy?" asked Sophia. "Because your daddy thought he couldn't have children, but he could." "Oh yes, and you're the proof. And then what?" "Then your mommy had to prove to your daddy that you were his, and when he found out you were, he was so happy he decided to live with you forever." "And Sophia? How was Sophia born?" "Sophia was born from Daddy and Mommy's love," Amy said, joining the group. "Which love is stronger? Daddy's love for Mommy or his love for the babies?" asked Noah. Richard sat down among the children. "Noah, you can't compare those loves. The love I feel for your mommy is different from the love I feel for you, but both are huge." "How are they different?" Ethan wanted to know. "The love I feel for mommy is the love of someone who chose to build a life together. The love I feel for you is the love of someone who watched you grow, who took care of you when you were sick, who felt proud with every little thing you achieved." "Which one is more important?" Olivia pressed. "They're both important. One doesn't exist without the other. I love Mommy because she's your mother, and I love you because you're Mommy's children." "Daddy," Sophia said, climbing onto Richard's lap, "do you remember when we were born?" "I don't remember you three, no. But I remember when Sophia was born." "Tell us." "When Sophia was born, you three stayed at Aunt Dorothy's house, and when I called to say you had a baby sister, you got so excited Aunt Dorothy could barely hold you back on the phone." "And when we got to the hospital," asked Ethan, "you ran into the room tripping over each other to see Sophia, and Noah got so close to the crib he almost fell in. And what was Sophia doing? Sleeping. But when you started talking to her, she opened her little eyes. Did she know we were her brothers?" "Of course she did. Babies know these things." Amy watched the scene with a smile. These family conversations were her favorite moments. "Richard," she called, "is the meat burning?" "Oh no!" Richard jumped up from the children and ran back to the grill. "Daddy almost burned lunch." The kids laughed. "Nothing's burned, it's perfect," Richard defended. They all ate together at the big table Richard had specially made for the family, a solid wood table with 8 seats, enough for everyone, and still room for guests. Over lunch, the children talked about school, their friends, and their plans for the upcoming summer break. "Daddy, can we go to the beach for vacation?" Olivia asked. "Of course we can." "All together?" "All together." "And how many days will we stay?" "As many days as you want." 2 weeks, they shouted in unison. 2 weeks is a long time, said Amy. "Daddy has to work." "So I can work from there," said Richard. 2 weeks at the beach for everyone. The kids celebrated as if they'd won the lottery. After lunch, while the children napped and Dorothy rested in the hammock on the porch, Richard and Amy were alone in the kitchen, washing the dishes. "Richard, have you noticed our life has become exactly what you always wanted?" "How so?" "A big family, kids playing around the house, Sunday lunches, beach vacations." "It's true. It's exactly what I dreamed of when I was young." "And what did you want back when you were married to Vanessa?" "A quiet, organized, predictable life." "And what do you have now?" "A crazy, messy, unpredictable life," Richard laughed, "and 1,000 times better." "Ours, do you think Vanessa was the wrong person, or were you just wrong for each other?" I think we were the right people at that time in our lives. But people change, Richard, and sometimes they change in different directions." "And us? What direction are we changing in?" "The same direction. To be better parents, better partners, better people." "Are you sure?" "I am, because every challenge we face brings us closer, not farther apart. So as even when we fight, especially when we fight, because we learn to solve problems together." That afternoon, after Dorothy left and the kids went back to playing in the yard, Richard sat in his favorite armchair in the living room and looked around. The house was in its usual organized chaos: toys scattered, children's books on the table, kids' drawings stuck on the fridge, little shoes piled up by the door. It was so different from the immaculate house he'd kept with Vanessa, where everything had its place and nothing was out of order. "Amy," he called, "do you think our house is always too messy?" "I think our house is always full of life," she replied, sitting on the arm of the chair. "Is that the same thing?" "To me it is. A house with kids is a house. Full of life. A house full of life is a house with mess. Don't you ever miss having a more organized home?" "Sometimes. But then I remember this mess means we have 4 healthy, happy kids, and I'll take the mess." "And when they grow up? When they move out? Then we'll tidy everything up and miss the mess," Richard laughed. "Amy, you always have the right answer." I don't. I just try to see the good in things. Even when it's hard? Especially when it's hard." Just then, Sophia came running into the room. "Daddy, Daddy, Noah's crying." "Why is he crying?" "Because he fell off his bike." Richard got up immediately and went to the backyard, followed by Amy and Sophia. Noah was sitting on the ground, holding his knee, tears in his eyes. "What happened, champ?" "I wanted to ride my bike like Ethan, but I fell." "Let Daddy see." Richard checked Noah's knee. It was just a scrape, but to a 7-year-old, it felt like the end of the world. "It's nothing serious, Noah. We'll clean it up, and you'll be good as new." But it hurts, Daddy." "I know it hurts, but you know what happens when we fall off our bikes." "What?" "We learn to ride even better." "How?" "Because now you know what not to do so you won't fall again." "And will I be able to ride like Ethan?" "You'll ride even better than Ethan." "Really? Really, but you have to practice a lot." Noah stopped crying and perked up. "Then I'll practice every day. But carefully, okay?" "Okay, Daddy." As Amy tended to Noah's scrape, Richard realized that these small moments of care and protection were what defined his fatherhood the most, not the big achievements or the special occasions. It was about being there when they needed, knowing the right words to calm a fear, teaching them that hurts fade and it's always possible to try again. At night, when putting the children to bed, Richard made sure to say goodnight to each one individually. First, Sophia, who always asked for a story. "Daddy, tell the story of the princess who had 3 older brothers." "Again, Sophia?" "Again." Richard would tell the made-up story about a princess protected by 3 brave brothers, clearly inspired by their own family. Then Noah, who always wanted to talk about his day. "Daddy, tomorrow will I be able to ride my bike?" "If you practice hard, you will. And if I fall again, then you get up and try again, like you did when we were born." "What do you mean, son?" "Mommy said when we were born you fell, but then got up and learned to be a dad." Richard smiled. It was amazing how children could simplify complex situations. "That's right. Noah, I fell, but I got up and learned." Next was Olivia, who always had philosophical questions. "Daddy, are all families like ours?" "No, sweetheart, every family is different." "What are other families like?" "Some have only 1 child, others have many. Some have just a mom, others just a dad. Some have grandparents living with them. Every family is special in its own way." "And how is ours special?" "Our family is special because you 4 were born to be siblings, and Mommy and I were born to be your parents. Even though Daddy doesn't remember when we were born. Even then, sometimes people find each other in different ways, but what matters is that they find each other." Lastly, Ethan, the oldest, who always wanted to talk about more serious things. "Daddy, when I grow up, will I have kids like me?" "Why do you ask that?" "Because I want to be a dad like you." "Ethan, you'll be a dad in your own way. Every dad is different. But I want to take care of my kids like you take care of us." "And how do I take care of you?" "You stay with us when we're sick, teach us when we don't know things, get mad when we do something wrong, but then explain why. And always give us goodnight kisses." Richard felt his heart swell with emotion. "Ethan, if you do all that for your kids, you'll be a wonderful dad." "And will you be their grandpa?" "I will. And I'll teach them all the things you taught me." "What did we teach you, Daddy?" "You taught me what it's like to love someone more than life itself." After putting all the children to bed, Richard joined Amy on the porch. It was a ritual they kept every night, sitting together for a few minutes before bed, talking about their day and planning tomorrow. "How was your day?" Amy asked. "Perfect, and yours?" "Also perfect." "Amy, do you think our life is real or a dream?" "Why do you ask that?" "Because sometimes it feels too good to be true." And if it's a dream, then I never want to wake up. Richard, our life isn't perfect. We have problems, struggles, tiredness. I know, but even with the problems, it's perfect to me. Why? Because it's ours, because we built it together, because every difficulty we overcome makes us stronger. And if a really big struggle comes, then we'll face it together, like we always do. Are you sure? I am, because now I know something I didn't before. What? That family isn't about being perfect. It's about being together in the imperfect moments. Amy nestled into Richard's shoulder. I love you. I love you too. And I love the life we have, even though it's completely different from what you planned. Especially because it's different from what I planned. My plans were too small for the happiness I could have. That night, before falling asleep, Richard reflected on all the events that had brought him there. The incorrect diagnosis of sterility, the effect of the medications, Amy showing up with the babies, Vanessa's decision, his own choice to stay. Every piece of that complex puzzle had been necessary to build the life they had now. If any of those events had unfolded differently, they wouldn't be there as a family. It was as if fate had conspired in a complicated way to bring them together, testing their determination and their love before allowing them to be happy. And now, 7 years after that first day when Amy appeared at his door, Richard knew with certainty that he had made the right choices. Not the easiest choices, not the most logical ones, but the right choices for the man he had become. Through the bedroom window, he could hear the sounds of the sleeping house, the steady breathing of the 4 children, the living room clock ticking away the hours, the wind rustling through the backyard trees. They were the sounds of a full life, of a true family, of choices that had been worth every moment of uncertainty and pain. Richard fell asleep that night with the feeling of a man who had found his place in the world, not where he expected to find it. Not how he expected to find it, but exactly where he needed to be. And when he woke the next morning, with Sophia climbing onto the bed to say good morning, he knew each new day would be another page in the story of the family he had chosen to build, consciously and forever. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of the story. Do you think Richard made the right choice by deciding to stay with Amy and the children? And Vanessa, did she do the right thing by giving the ultimatum? Share your thoughts about this family that came together in such an unexpected way in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think.